I'll tell you who the super fighter of the next CJI is. I know where this is headed. And you might think of this guy as the Mystic Mac, but here's the prediction.
Oof.
Zelensky versus Putin.
Q&A for BJJ. Now, you might have some questions. We might have some answers. The best way to do that, go to bulletproofbjj.com, click on the podcast tab, scroll down, red button, leave us a voicemail, let us know where you're from, what you want to know, and we'll give it up. We'll let you know, and we'll play it here on the pod.
Here's the other ask for you is, small thing that you can do. Share this episode with a mate. Do the share thing, copy the link, send it to a friend, go, hey, check these guys out. I reckon they're okay. Small gesture, but it helps to grow the show. And, we're putting the shit out there. We want more people to hear it.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
And so if you guys can help to do that, it means the world to us. We got some questions coming in today. First of 3 coming in from James.
Great name.
Power.
Hey guys, love the show. Love what you do as a new white belt. You've been very helpful, along the beginnings of my journey. And you don't seem like the guys to shy away from a controversial topic. So I was curious to get your thoughts on something. On the bottom of the Smooth Comp app that I'm sure you guys are familiar with, that everybody has to use to register for a jiu-jitsu competition. There's a banner that says something like "We stand with Ukraine," and there's a picture of a Ukrainian flag. And then, with the CJI recently, and Craig Jones, comes up with millions of dollars mysteriously that he won't give up his source.
Yes.
And then coincidentally, he's suddenly, shooting a lot of videos from Ukraine and doing things to raise money for Ukraine and speaking out about the Ukraine war. And that seems obviously coincidental. And, this is a common tactic of propaganda and how to make people subconsciously, pick sides in a foreign political war who have, people who have absolutely no idea the dynamics and what's going on in a foreign war. And I was just curious what you guys think about that and jiu-jitsu now being used as a means of propaganda like that.
Right on.
Holy shit, what a great banger.
This is great because...
It's a great question, James.
I've had this discussion with a few folks. Political things aside, it has been raised... Yeah, why is Craig over there in the Ukraine shooting bazookas? They're expensive.
Don't they need those?
Isn't that like $2,500? Isn't that just like an ADCC appearance fee that he just blew up a car with? It's not. It's expensive. Is that Biden war money? What's going on? So, shall we delve into the realm of conspiracy theory, Joe?
Well,
or do we want to keep it more on the more PC?
Well, hang on. The heart of James' question is like the use of jiu-jitsu as a means of propaganda, right? Which, let's respond to that first. And then if you've got a conspiracy piece you want to get into,
please.
So look, I'll be honest, James. Like most Westerners, I would imagine, I have the immediate feeling of being on the side of Ukraine, right? And this is because I've been, influenced by
the West.
Yeah, by the Western media and what we see about it. Now, I'm not, I think it's pretty clear that Putin is not a good person. I think that's fair to say.
Safe.
But I vibe, James, with exactly what you said about people taking sides on something they know nothing about.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I have listened to experts on geopolitics talking about this and the cultural significance of this war and just the relations between America and Russia and things that played out around the Cold War. And I'm like, okay, there is way more to this story than the media tells me, right? So, heart goes out to everyone that's involved in that shit and it's awful and I hope it ends. But I totally get, there's absolutely more to the picture than I can know. So to get then to your question about how do I feel about that, I think, if I'm being honest, I don't think, I'm torn, I'm conflicted. Because I think that it's problematic in a way when politics, geopolitics, these sorts of things get
Political
brought
agendas.
Yeah, get brought into sports and to other sort of microcosms, because there's enough of like there's already a platform for those things to take place.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like I don't need some organization that's totally unrelated to also be contributing to that. But then I also do share the belief that if you feel passionately about something and you have a platform, i.e. you have a brand or an organization that's in the public eye, SmoothCom, and you feel passionately about I stand with Ukraine, let's just say hypothetically the owner of SmoothComp is Ukrainian and their family has been displaced and some lives lost, then use whatever you have at your disposal to fight for what you believe in.
Sure.
So that's where I'm conflicted. I don't know, and I see a case for both sides.
Okay, so here is the difficulty, because I was in the States recently and I was hanging out with a variety of human beings. Some of them Dems, Democrats, blue bloods, and then some of them are Republicans, conservatives, so to speak. And it's interesting, people have very different views, right? What I found interesting and could resonate with was that there is many folks many of our American cousins who are not getting looked after, and they're seeing their government send a lot of money overseas. And they're like, couldn't we better spend that looking after ourselves? Couldn't our government do a better job of looking after us instead of getting involved in some bullshit? Mm-hmm. And you can say, yeah, sure. That said, it's also like, what does it mean if Ukraine were to fall to Russia? Like if Russia was able to take Ukraine and now they command Ukraine, is there bigger knock-on effects from there? i.e., are they going Poland next? Probably. What goes on from there? Who knows? I'm not someone who is actually very politically well-versed, other than I've spent time in Poland in the last 2 years, and I've seen the Ukrainian refugees there and how poorly they're existing and how that's not a good situation, and also the vibe in Poland, which is interesting. Spent time in the States and experienced all of this. If it's a question of should politics be introduced into sport martial arts, I mean, we're all about freedom of speech, right? So if somebody really does care about something and it's affecting them, who am I to tell a person to not do something, right? But by the same token, what I have done before in my own jiu-jitsu classes is said to the folks, let's not talk about politics, racism, sexism. Like, let's just keep this about the thing. And that way we're not drawn into discussions which, we're kind of forming half cobbled decisions, and it's creating division amongst us. We're here doing a thing which can create unity through jiu-jitsu, even though we all have different political and economic views of the world because of our biases. I personally feel that so much of what media we see is ramming ideas, dogma, and ideologies down our throat that often we don't feel we have a choice. And that's difficult. I feel like I often get off-put when someone is telling me what to think politically. I don't like that. I feel like you think whatever the fuck you want to think, And so if you, like Joe's saying, if someone has a platform, they want to say what they want, it doesn't sway me either way, Like I feel the way I feel for various reasons. It doesn't mean I'm well informed, And I think this is the thing. I think we can admit the limits of our knowledge and just be honest and say, I feel this way because, wrongly or rightly.
Yeah.
And so
based on my best information, this is what I think.
The best I can do,
I mean, to that point, right? I think that we should it's commonly spoken about that there's this silly thing we do as humans whereby when we have an interaction with someone who doesn't share our views, that we write that person off as a bad person. Oh, you're a conservative? Well, I'm progressive, and so f*** you.
Yeah.
I don't want to know you. When really it should be like, oh, that's your view? Oh, wow, that's different to mine. Okay, like maybe we can connect on some other things and maybe, tell me about why you're conservative. And
Why do you think that?
yeah, like, and this is the case, right? If you think about all the people if you were to discuss every single topic that is important to you with them, there's going to be things you disagree on. That shouldn't define who you can spend time with or respect or whatever. So in that way, if an organization is to say, oh, hey, this is my view on this thing, like I support Ukraine or whatever, here I've got a flag and a hashtag in the footer of my website, I don't think that should matter in that. Like I don't, you might be like, hey, I disagree with that because of whatever reasons, but no worries, I'm just here for the jiu-jitsu, off we go.
Yeah.
Can
we go to conspiracy theories real quick?
Oh, go on.
All right. Speaking to somebody high level in jiu-jitsu in America.
AKA the cancer man.
No. Just this is somebody who doesn't really have a horse in the race, so to speak. He was like, if you think about having access to Ukraine and getting about over there, you need certain amounts of clearance and you've got to be hanging out with certain people. Everybody has different interests in what's going on over there. There has been a lot of US government money, Biden money, going to the Ukraine. And not all of it is necessarily being used the way maybe it should. So there's been people who've been awarded funds to take care of things like weapons supply, military supply for Ukrainians. The right thing. The money, like charities. You give money to UNICEF and you're like, feed those starving people.
Yeah.
Sometimes that money just disappears, right? Like
yeah, as we know, a lot of it gets pilfered.
It can happen. This person their concern was that, hey, maybe these millions of dollars that Craig has been able to stumble on is Biden weapons money that's been washed. That it's so much money that's been allocated that it's not being used for weapons, and maybe someone's just taking it and investing it somewhere else or churning it somewhere else and seeing if there's a return, and they're therefore washing it.
Right.
And this person was like,
Think about it.
You look into it, and I was like, whoa.
And then he just disappeared into a cloud of smoke.
I was like, dang, man, there's a few other conspiracy theories in there too, but
I'll bet there is.
Their concern
Craig was in the bottom of Tower 7.
What? Man, I think we have reached a point where jiu-jitsu is big enough, the attention is big enough that people are going to start pushing their political and personal agendas and whatever.
Well, why is no one talking about Lucas Cannard showing up to CJI to f*** up Victor Hugo with a Palestinian flag on his sleeve? No one's talking about
hey! Well,
I love that, by the way. Fucking great.
Whatever.
But that was a joke. But yeah, makes sense, right? When you've got billions of dollars going overseas, some of it's going to get pilfered by some.
Yeah.
Could it have found its way into, one Australian jiu-jitsu magnate's hands? The world's greatest troll and fueled a competition which we all came to love? Yeah, that's highly probable.
But the question is, what is the next war that's going to fund the next CJI?
I'll tell you who the super fighter of the next CJI is. I know where this is headed. And you might think of this guy as the Mystic Mac, but here's the prediction.
Oof.
Zelensky versus Putin. Craig's making it happen.
Wow, that would be special. Who do you get?
Zelensky in the military fatigues.
Weight and size advantage.
Putin probably in a suit or something.
Putin's a black belt in judo.
Putin's got the judo skills.
But Zelensky's got...
He's got youth on his... relative youth compared to Putin.
Yeah. Putin's taller.
He's got the military fatigues.
He's got reach.
Yeah. And he's got the crowd energy, I would say, is going to be on Zelensky's side.
But you'd say Zelensky's probably got better cardio. He has to do more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of running around trying to fight. You're going to develop some endurance if you're going to fight Mother Russia. Jesus Christ.
That would be a hell of a super fight, just saying.
God. It just opens, it boggles, but also opens the mind to the possibilities of CJI matchups.
Fucking. Thank you for the question, James. I appreciate that one.
Fuck, that turned to a whole nother episode, didn't it?
Do you find you get thirsty at training? I do. I do all the time. I'm a sweaty human and I need to hydrate. Now, the biggest problem is by the time you're thirsty, it's a little bit late. You need to hydrate. And that's why we got Sodi. Sodi is sponsoring the show. We've got all the colors of the rainbow. Great flavors here. We've got salty citrus, salty pineapple, salty berry, and my favorite, salty grapefruit. And they will be releasing 2 new mystery flavors soon. So why do we need this? It's going to prevent our muscle cramps. It's going to help our energy delivery. And it's also going to mean you're less tired, which is an advantage when you're training. If you want to maximize your jiu-jitsu and feel good when you're rolling, you need to get SODI. And when you purchase, enter the code Bulletproof20 at checkout for 20% off. Oh yeah.
Here we go. Next one from Anonymous.
Hey, Jimmy and JT. I discovered your podcast a few weeks ago, and I already love you guys so much. Your content is so relatable and entertainingly presented, and you remind me of the coaches at my old dojo where I first fell in love with BJJ, who I'm really missing right now since moving from California to Scotland. I'm not happy with the place that I'm training at now and looking for a different gym here, but I know that's only half the problem. So, to get to it, I accidentally triggered a hard-on in one of my training partners about a year ago.
Oh, no.
He said that he admired the restraint of the other guys, but he wouldn't be surprised if their minds weren't all in exactly the same place. And then after I moved away, one of my favorite training partners, a super nice blue belt who had a daughter my age and always taught me really cool techniques, sent me an inappropriate DM, which, totally shattered my opinion of him. And he was the last person I would have expected to do that. And since then, I felt that if I was wrong to trust him, I really can't trust any of the guys I roll with. And it's been really hard coming to a new gym full of strange men. I'm often the only girl in many of the classes here, and the women's class is only once a week. And if it wasn't for your podcast, I think I'd have completely lost hope by now. You guys and Raylene and Adele have helped me stay excited about jiu-jitsu and feel less alone in my struggles. So first, I want to thank you for that, and then also ask if you guys have any wisdoms to share about situations like mine and or more female speakers who can tell the show how they overcame similar experiences. Thanks, guys.
Whoa.
Wow, that's another banger of a question.
That sucks. I'm so sorry to hear that you've had those experiences. That's messed up. First of all, I'd just like to say to that first point of you triggered a guy having a hard on. This is no comment against you, but that guy saying, "Oh, I'm not surprised other men's minds are not in the same." Man, fuck that guy. That's some bullshit. That's creepo bullshit. If people are getting hard-ons during jiu-jitsu, like that's, man, get the fuck out. Like that is some rubbish. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, and obviously you being inappropriately messaged by anyone it's just like, really, I would say, obviously I don't know how it feels to be in your shoes, so I'm really sorry you've experienced that. But what I say is, like, there's so many weirdos and idiots in the world I don't think that means you should give up hope on humanity, right? So even though you haven't had some good experiences, think this: the better you are at jiu-jitsu, the more you can control the other person. And therefore, the better you can defend yourself if you feel like the situation is unsafe or not great. You know, you can break their fucking arm. That's my take on it. But also, I think it is worthwhile. You bring it up with the coach or the head instructor to go, this is uncalled for. I didn't ask for this. This is out of place. Like, bring it up, because maybe it's happened to other women at the gym and you're really the one who's brave enough to say something. I think that's really important. And hey, credit to you for having the courage to bring it up here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, bringing it to the surface is an important thing, and we see that, right? Like, you see, like with Diddy and all of these sexual abuse things that become huge on the media. It's when one person is like, "I'm going to speak out about this," and then it just starts this
a cascade.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, credit to you for bringing it, for raising it here, and of course, like, you could imagine that there's going to be certain coaches, particularly if it's a coach maybe you don't have a great relationship with, where a woman's just not going to feel comfortable to bring that up, right? I have to push back on that first guy. Like, that sounds like he could potentially be a total creep in that scenario, or it could have just been a very unfortunate accident for that guy. And he's like, Guys do get hard-ons, right?
Yeah, but that justification is bullshit.
No, but for someone
But he's
who's
saying that he was turned on by her.
look,
Like,
I know. Don't get me
that's-
wrong. It's creepy as fuck, but I'm just saying potentially the guy was hyper embarrassed and was trying to find something to say that when he's just in this shit spot, and he said something stupid like that.
Fail. No. You
No,
get- you
no,
get
fair.
pass. No
But
pass from me.
in defense, I think it's important to keep that, because dudes get fucking hard-ons, right?
Yeah, sure.
But
But to explain it away that, well, you're so attractive, I'm surprised not every other man, like trying to make it like it's a compliment, like that's kind of bullshit. Like you can apologize for all kinds of behavior.
Yeah.
That's not an apology. That's some justification.
Yeah, it's a shit.
It's
shit thing
rubbish.
to say. But yeah, to the point about the inappropriate message from the other fella and that kind of thing, I honestly this shit must go on all the time in jiu-jitsu. Like it must happen all the time to women, and it's a kind of thing in the dynamic of men and women, and then particularly in a game where there's a lot of intimacy,
Physical
non-romantic physical contact and intimacy. That's like it's probably easy for a guy who doesn't have who hasn't thought much about this, maybe doesn't have particularly strong ethics about it or morals, to overstep the line and say something stupid like that, right?
Sure.
And so, it takes my mind to Firas Zahabi,
Sure.
coach of TriStar Academy, who is a Muslim, I believe, and he said openly that he won't roll with women.
Yeah, but that's also cultural, and that's part of being a Muslim.
Yeah, let me explain first before you jump on it, bro. But he's saying, he said, I don't know what goes on in your other guys' minds, but I just know, like he said, if you're able to not have impure thoughts at the time when you're out, then good for you. But he's like, I know, I don't roll with women. And so, and I've always thought that was I've always thought, that's silly, like that, I think that's absurd. But when you counter it with, well, then you got this guy saying shit like sending inappropriate messages, it's like, and this guy is like, well, I just choose not to put myself in that scenario. It raises an interesting dilemma.
I don't think it's a dilemma. I think that's a cop-out. I think when I'm rolling in jiu-jitsu, I'm going to strangle you. I'm going to break your arm. I'm going to break your leg. Like,
yeah, but she hasn't asked, it's not about, but what you would do, it's about the culture, right? And guys. And so, yeah, sure. Like I could tell you all the awesome things I would do to not be a creep, but that's not what she's getting at. She's getting at, I've got this dilemma and there's guys out there. What's the practical solution here?
you're dealing with humanity. So it doesn't matter. You could have someone be inappropriate to you at a law firm. You could be a police officer and have a fellow officer sexually assault you. Like the dynamic between unwanted sexual attention, whether it's male, female, male on male, whatever the situation, it's like, it's never good. And that's rough. I think, like you were saying before, Joe, because jiu-jitsu is such an intimately physical thing, you can't avoid it. And then you find out the person who's on your back and has you powerless is now whispering creepy shit into your ear. That changes the dynamic to them crushing your face off. You accept that because that's part of the rules of engagement, right? You didn't like sign up for unwanted attention, right? So I would say don't give up hope on jiu-jitsu. There are jiu-jitsu schools where you'll go to a place and the culture will be great. And then you'll go to other places where it's not. And that's, you have to find the right place where you feel you can learn and stay learning. And it's difficult if you've gone from a gym where you had a lot of friends and you had a lot of support to a gym where you don't have a lot of friends and you don't have a lot of support. And it is harder if you're a woman because it's such a male-dominated sport. It's so tough in that way.
Yeah, I think that those guys who are inclined to do that kind of thing, right? Let's just say there's a percentage of dudes that are going to be that way inclined. They're going to be everywhere, like you said. They're in every facet of life, and potentially in a game like jiu-jitsu, where it is kind of uniquely as physically kind of close as it is, potentially that's going to allow guys that's going to give them like a step in towards maybe expressing that thing, right? Whereas maybe if you were colleagues at work, it may not have come up, let's say. I think that you shouldn't let that define how the journey plays out for you. I strongly acknowledge that, yeah, it's like we always say, it's a steeper hill for women in the sport of jiu-jitsu, and you probably need to it's probably going to ask of you to develop a thicker skin in regards to that specific threat that can come for a woman, because of the fact of the way the game is played, because of that physical contact piece. And so if you're like, all right, these motherfuckers are out there, I need to be like, I'm either like prepared to kind of handle that, and yeah, that guy texts me and that's a real disappointment, and that guy's a piece of shit, whatever. Or you know what, I don't want to expose myself to that degree, and I'm gonna jet out, which is totally fine too.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you accept misbehavior. That's, you know what I mean? Like, it's not to say, oh, you just go, oh, that's fine. It's not. It's inappropriate. You shouldn't have to put up with it. But it can happen. But like Major Payne says, I got a little something to take your mind off the pain. Break the dude's leg. Give him an ACL reconstruction. It's definitely going to kill the boner. That's
great until you find out the guy's like, 3-stripe brown belt, 40 kilo weight advantage.
Break him.
You're not doing shit to that guy.
No,
like,
I'm joking.
Like, that is the epitome of a power imbalance.
No. I'm just saying I have been bullied and physically dominated by higher belts and bigger, stronger humans, and they injured me, and it felt inappropriate because the power dynamic was out, and I couldn't do anything about it other than never trust that person again. And all I've tried to do is try to make myself stronger and better at jiu-jitsu so that I could better defend myself against someone trying to overpower me, which is, I guess, is at the core of jiu-jitsu. But yeah, you should definitely not be putting up with that shit. And look, strength to you, we really want you to stay in the game. So try and find that gym where you feel good and you can trust your training partners.
Yeah, I think in the way that you mentioned, like our show and Raylene and Adele have been inspiring figures for you, finding allies. So you're in a new country now, a new town. Finding allies, i.e. training partners, coaches, maybe women in jiu-jitsu that you can spend time with. And even if that means, you know what, I'm gonna find a women's only session, or I'm gonna try and create one, like something like that. If that can keep you moving forward with something that you do love, assuming you still love it, I think that would be a really powerful and practical step to take.
Definitely.
Last one coming in from Huey. Is this the Huey?
Could be.
G'day, boys. Huey here from Melbourne. Good to see you on Instagram. JT lifting those stones, trying to get as big as Joey. Coming at you with a question regarding preferred training undergarment. Are you guys team undies, team compression, or team budgie smuggler? I'm slowly growing the budgie smuggler contingent at my gym. Keen to hear your thoughts. Bye.
Huey, legend. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah.
I'm a briefs, like a tight briefs kind of guy. Is that what they're called, briefs?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, yes. like the little shorts that are elasticated and shit. That's my vibe all the time.
Yeah.
I always feel undies. I got you're the same, like big butt, big thigh. For me, undies and shit, they just feel like I'm constantly pulling them out of crevices.
It's going to result in a wedgie.
Yeah.
At some point.
So I'm briefs all day.
Yeah. And look, I'm always for even though this is where Joey and I may not concur, I also will go spats and long sleeve rashi undergi.
Yeah, you're very.
I'm pretty adamant about that. Just as someone who's suffered too many skin infections, I feel like that's a really good, just another layer that helps get the bacteria off, even though it is unworldly hot.
Yeah, you do that shit in summer, right?
I do. Yeah.
Sick.
I am. It's true.
Do you wear spats under your gi pants?
Yeah.
Wow, you do too.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just for me. It's not a comfort thing. It's more just long term, just getting the grossness off you post.
I hope that helps, Huey. But if you're doing the budgie, so I'd love to see how you're sharing the budgie smuggler aspect with the other training partners.
Maybe you could go further. Maybe you could go G-string, Huey. Maybe that could be something. You could start something there. I'm not sure how comfortable or uncomfortable that is. I can't speak to
it. A lot of women tell me it's quite comfortable.
Well, that's a different thing. It's a different thing.
Guys, some banger questions today. Appreciate it. If you got questions for the show, go to our webpage, Bulletproof for BJJ.com, hit the podcast tab, hit the red button and record a voicemail. We'll answer it on the show. It's going to be great. We appreciate you, and share this episode with someone who would like it. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Peace.